Okay, so this problem is going to be a words and context problem, and let's see what they're asking us here. Dance choreographer Jolie Willa Jo Zolar aims to give people the opportunity to be blank, her creative process. So then they give us the rest of the context saying, for example, live performances of her dance Hair Stories, which debuted in 2001, featured videos of people across the United States talking about their hair and audience members sharing pictures of their interesting hairstyles. So now we need to figure out what do we want to have in this blank. So we're giving people an opportunity to do what? And based on the example, we want to put in our own words first. To me, this sounds like they're giving other people a chance to be a part of that creative process. And now that's our own answer. Let's see what they give us in the multiple choice. So A says be nervous about. Nothing really signifies that they're being nervous here, so I think we can cross that one out. B says completed by. Again, not necessarily finishing anything, so I don't think that's going to be the correct answer. C is saying delayed by, so her creative process isn't necessarily delaying anything. But what they are saying is that they are being involved in. So she wants people to be involved in, and that's what that example that they give later is an example of. In this example, they give us the text from the novel Life of Pi. And they give a little bit of information saying the narrator's family owned a zoo when he was a child. And they say it was a huge zoo spread over numberless acres, big enough to require a train to explore it, though it seemed to get smaller as I grew older, train included. So we need to figure out what does the word spread most nearly mean. And when we read that, it says it was a huge zoo. So that's a bit of context right there. And they say that it was spread over numberless acres. So we're talking about something that's really, really large. And in this case, seems to be something that goes across many, many, many acres. So we're looking for something that kind of signifies that. So as used in the text, what does the word spread most nearly mean? I'm not going to say hidden. It's not that it's tucked away somewhere obscure. It's not being discussed either. This isn't something that they're analyzing. Could be extended. So we'll make a note of that one for now, just to double check the rest of our answers, see if we don't have any better responses to use, but this might be promising. So D says then coded, which if you say you're spreading something, you might think at first to code, but that's not the way that they're using it here. The way that they're using here is to say that it was extended. So C is going to be the correct answer. In this problem, Charles Teeny Harris was a photographer for the Pittsburgh Courier from 1936 to 1975. During his career, he took over 70,000 photographs, photographing everyday life in Pittsburgh's Black communities. The Carnegie Museum of Art maintains thousands of his photographs, carefully something them so that the audiences can continue to view them well into the future. So again, let's take that approach. Let's see what in our own words are they trying to say here. So they're saying they maintain thousands of his photographs, carefully something, so that people can continue to look at them in the future. My first thought is something around preserving. It might be something about keeping them intact and protecting them in the future. So let's see which one of those best fits that. So A, they're not replacing. They they're trying to keep the originals. At the same time, they're not inventing. They're not making these photographs. They're not starting with something new. So C might be the likely answer. I said before, preserving, this might be the case. But just to double check, D, counting, they're not counting them so that they are view so that audiences can view them. They might keep a number of them. I don't understand how many there are, but that's not the context here. The context is that they are keeping them intact and visible for the future so that many additional audiences can look at them. So C is going to be the correct answer. Biologist Jane Edgelow and colleagues have located what is believed to be the largest individual plant in the world in Shark Bay area of Australia. The plant is a type of seagrass called Posidonia australis, and it is blank, approximately 200 square meters. So what are they trying to tell us? They're trying to tell us something about the size here. It's doing something to talk about its size, approximately 200 square kilometers. If I'm going to put in my own words to that, I would say it spreads across approximately 200 kilometers, or it expands over, it covers, something like that. Now that we've come up with our own answer, let's take a look at the responses that the SAT gives us. It's not acknowledging, you're not it's not acknowledging approximately 200 square kilometers, nor is it producing 200 square kilometers. It's saying, again, we want to look for something that's saying it covers or it spreads over that much. And in this case, C might best fit that for now. But again, let's keep checking the rest of our answers just to be sure. A lot of the times, the SAT, they will give multiple potential answers, and we always want to check all of them to find the best one. And D says advances approximately 200 square kilometers. That's not going to be correct because when you're saying something advances, you're thinking something's going to push forward, it's continuing. But in this case, it spans, it goes across that 200 square kilometers, and it's already that far apart. So C is the correct answer here. In this question, visual artist Gabrielle Alleman states that the bold colors of comics, pop art, and Latinx culture have always fascinated her. This passion for the rich history and colors of her Latinx community translates into the blank artwork she produces. So we're looking for some sort of adjective that describes the artwork that she produces. And they give this context of bold colors, having always fascinated her. And then this passion for the rich history and the colors of her Latinx community translates into something. So I'm thinking something that's bold and colorful, um, and vibrant. Those are some words that come to mind that I would want to fit in here. So the answers that they give us, A, vivid could mean that. Vivid is something that means bold or colorful. So we'll note that one and check the rest. It's not going to be B. It's not unknown. We know what it's going to be, so it's not that. Definite doesn't quite fit here. Definitive or definite means that it's very straightforward. It's very defined. It's not going to be ambiguous. So I don't think that's what fits here because we're looking for something that's bold or colorful. And D says reserved, which means be a little bit muted, like kept to yourself, um, or other kind of colors. I would think of colors, some things like dark grays or drab, um, which isn't the case here. It's going to be quite the opposite. So A is going to be the best correct answer here. In this question, the prompt states, in recommending Bao Fi's collection, Song I Sing, a librarian noted that pieces by the spoken word poet don't lose their blank nature when printed. The language has the same pleasant musical quality on the page as it does when performed by Fi. So we're saying here we're not losing something. What is that something that we're not losing? And they tell us then that the language has the same pleasant musical quality on the page as it does when it's performed by Fi. So it's not losing that musical quality when it's being performed, that you get when it's performed as when you print it. So something along that effect of musical quality or characteristics of it. So let's find something that might fit that. A, scholarly. That means more very academic, research focused, which isn't quite what they're trying to do here. So I would remove that one. Melodic. So that sounds something like musical or very song type. So this could potentially be one. So we'll start this one for now. C says jarring. So jarring means very abrupt and abrasive, not very pleasant. So this kind of goes against is the opposite of what they're describing. So I would cross that one out. And D is personal. This may very well be personal, but this isn't what they're describing here. They're saying it's the language has the same pleasant musical quality, as opposed to saying something that's very personal or um, specific to Bao. So I would remove that one and say B is the correct answer. In this problem, it says the Appalachian Trail is a hiking path in the eastern United States. Much of the 2,000-mile trail passes through wilderness areas. In order to blank those areas, the United States Congress passed the National Trail System Act in 1968, ensuring that the trail would not be sold or commercially developed. So we need to say something about maybe protecting these areas or ensuring that they aren't sold. So preserving them in some way. So let's look for those. So A says borrow. So this is quite the opposite. I want to make sure it's not being borrowed or sold or anything like that. So I would cross off A. B, similarly, postpone means to push into the future, but still to come back, to delay something. So that's not what they're trying to describe here. Talking about preserving and protecting, which is likely what C is going to be. So it says to protect. So keep that one here. and double check the rest of our answers, and we see D says to decorate. Not decorating and not putting up anything or making it a little more intricate. You think about like decorating a Christmas tree, for example, or a house for a birthday party. So D, I would say, is also incorrect. And that leaves us then, of course, with C as the correct response. And this problem says, according to statistician Nassim Nicholas Taleb, the best way to predict the amount of time a non-perishable entity, such as a building or a technology, will continue to exist is to examine how long it has survived so far. In this view, an item's age is the strongest blank of how long it will last. So what I'm looking for here is something that's going to predict or act as some sort of tell for how long it's going to last. So let's see what they say here. So first answer says uncertainty about. So it's not the strongest uncertainty about how much longer it'll last. It's saying quite the opposite, something that's very definitive that'll tell you. So I'll remove A. B says the strongest indicator of. So to be an indicator of something means to predict or be some sort of measure to tell you how something else might happen, which is what they're trying to describe here. So I'm going to start this one for now and check the rest. The strongest motivation. So it's not a motivation or a motive, something that's like pushing something or someone to continue forward or try to achieve a goal. That's what you would think motivation means. So I'm going to cross that one off also because it doesn't quite fit the context. And then D says the strongest criticism of how much longer it will last. So that means to be more of a critique or going against something or offering a rebuttal. And that's not what we're trying to do here. It's actually trying to find something that's going to be a reliable measure of how much longer it would last. So I'm going to cross off D, and B is going to be our correct answer. In this problem, it says, in the mid-19th century, some abolitionist newspapers blank westward migration in the United States by printing a letter that described the easy fortunes and high salaries miners could make in California during the gold rush. Frederick Douglass's newspaper, North Star, was one such publication that inspired readers to relocate. So we're looking for something that inspired readers to relocate. And that's what they're trying to do here. So these abolitionist newspapers, they inspired or tried to push forward or were a proponent of that westward migration. So let's see which one says that. So A says stimulated, which means to kind of spark or bring forward. And this might be a good one. So we'll keep this one for now, but check the rest of our answers because, again, every time we want to check the SAT questions, we want to see what is the best, most logical, precise word or phrase. We might find a couple of good ones, so we always want to check all of our answers, even if we think the first one might be the best. B says assign, so they didn't assign westward migration. They weren't directing this. So we cross off B. C says oppose, and the prompt kind of indicates the opposite. They were promoters of this. So we can cross off C. They're not opposing. They're not against westward migration. And D says disregarded. So that would mean that they don't care about it. It's not something that's important to him. But they're saying quite the opposite. It was very important that they were pushing for this. So we can cross out D. And it seems that A is then the best answer. So it's stimulated. And this prompt says Osage Nation citizen Randy Tinker Smith produced and directed the ballet Wazazi, which vibrantly chronicles Osage history and culture. Telling Osage stories through ballet is blank choice because two of the foremost ballet dancers of the 20th century were Osage, sisters Maria and Marjorie Tallchief. So which word best fits that? So they're saying that telling Osage stories through ballet is blank because two of the ballet dancers were of that heritage. So let's find something that best fits that. That's like very suitable. And A is the first one that says that. So a suitable choice because it feels that ballet and Osage history are very intertwined, particularly because two of those foremost ballet dancers were of the Osage Nation. The arm saying it's determined. It's not a determined choice. It's not that this is something that is predetermined or has been decided. Arbitrary is also not going to be correct because arbitrary means that it's doesn't make a difference one choice or another. It's just something that they happen to do, which wasn't the case here. It's something that's very, very this is something that was very much decided upon with thought behind it. And then D says an unpredictable. So it's not that it's an unpredictable choice thinking that you don't know what's going to happen next. It doesn't fit the context here either. So we can cross that out and says A, a suitable choice.